young mother, Alison's Parkinson's disease, diagnosed in her early 30s. Jacques' multiple sclerosis at just 26, which is ruining his life as a young adult. 65-year-old Travis's polyneuropathy, which makes it difficult for him to get around. Whitney and Spencer's infertility, which prevents them from having children. The incidence of these life-changing health problems has more than doubled in the last 50 years. And today, I would like to tell you about a known neurotoxic and reprotoxic petrochemical, which has been shown to contribute to all of these. It's called hexane, and you probably ate some today. Most of you have never heard of hexane because it's one of the food industry's best-kept secrets. For 70 years, this neurotoxic gasoline has been used on a massive scale to produce vegetable oils and natural extracts. Hexane extraction is a super efficient and super profitable technique. Drenching seeds with hexane recovers far more oils than pressing. Great, right? Sadly, no, because these oils and extract end up contaminated with hexane residue. And so does most of the food chain, including products from animals fed and hexane-contaminated meals. And these residues pass into our bodies in dangerous quantities and are detectable in our blood and urine. It's no surprise you have never heard of hexane. For regulatory reasons, this neurotoxic petrochemical is exempt from labeling. You can examine a packet with a magnifying glass. You are entitled to know if there are any traces of soya or nuts, but impossible to know if any of the ingredients contain hexane. I have 30 years' experience in industry and discovered that outrageous situation in 2017. Why did this subject become my cause? I've studied science, and I have always been passionate about everything to do with health. I think it's come from my mother. My mom lost her father when she was 9. Devastated by the loss of the dad she adored, she developed a neurological disease. She had to undergo heavy drug treatment throughout her adolescence, which led to a serious heart defect. At 20, my mom couldn't climb a flight of stairs without running out of breath. And at 27, she needed open heart surgery to survive. My mother told me that health is our most precious asset, that it is fragile, and that we must protect it. Her experience shows that active molecules can have unexpected effects, especially when you ingest them over a long period of time. And hexane is no exception. In France, hexane was classified as a proven neurotoxicant causing occupational illness as early as 1973. I could cite any number of scientific papers, but if you just want to read one, choose a paper published by Cravoto and his colleagues. In their 2022 review, this Franco-Italian research team outlined that hexane destroys the myelin sheath of nerve, affects certain brain cells, damages the immune system and reproductive cells. It crosses the placental barrier and can affect the fetus even before birth. Take Parkinson's, for instance. It has been clearly shown by Zhang and others in 2018 how hexane-toxic metabolite destroys the brain cells that produce dopamine. So the link between Parkinson's and hexane is well documented. The same for the other condition I mentioned earlier, multiple sclerosis, polyneuropathy, infertility. But surely there are only trace elements left in food. Sadly, no. The massive contamination of the general population has been proven by 11 independent studies, thanks to blood or urine tests since 1987. Our bodies eliminate hexane at different rates. And already in 2003, Kanizai and others had shown that there is a direct correlation between those of us who eliminate it worse and those of us who have neurodegenerative conditions. When I discovered that hexane food scandal back in 2017, I couldn't believe what I was reading. I live in Europe, one of the most demanding parts of the world when it comes to food safety. How could EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority, or FDA, the American Food and Drug Administration, have let a food scandal of this magnitude go unchallenged? And then I dug deeper, and I understood. Extraction technologies was developed in the 1930s, at a time when no toxicological studies were required on a substance before putting it into food. After the Second World War, extraction plants sprang up all over the world to feed the population. The toxicity of hexane to human health was belatedly discovered in the 1960s, when already thousands of factories were using this process. And global competition, the absence of obvious alternative, and last but not least, the exemption from labeling ensure that the toxic residues present in our food were kept absolutely secret from NGOs, consumers, physicians, most of the scientific community, and also even some authorities. And when I understood, what I felt was a deep sense of anger. Because the toxicity of hexane has been proven for over 50 years. There is no safe dose for hexane ingestion. So I asked a laboratory to analyze 51 products from the supermarket. And they detected hexane in 24 of them. And since hexane is exempt from labeling, there is no protection for babies, for young children, for pregnant women, and for people already suffering from neurodegenerative disease. I felt angry because despite the fact that the toxicity of the substance has been known without a shadow of a doubt for over 50 years, this neurotoxic petrochemical has destroyed and is silently destroying the health and lives of hundreds of millions of people around the world. And that cold anger has been my driving force, to inform people about hexane and its damage, and to find solutions to get out of this situation. But now I want to turn my anger into hope, because I've come here to bring hope to sufferers, to the families of sufferers, and to all those who fear one day they might suffer from a neurodegenerative disease. I've come here to bring you 3 pieces of good news. The first piece of good news is that we could totally eliminate hexane from our plates and everyday product. In the review I mentioned earlier, Cravoto and his colleagues identified at least 5 alternative technologies. And hexane has always been banned from organic production. So clearly, it's possible to produce food without it. The second piece of good news is that, especially in the USA, but also in Europe, with the help of good lawyers, patients could obtain damages from hexane suppliers and food manufacturers who put this contaminated product on the market in order to compensate for the medical expenses and loss of income. Watch this space. The test to assess your own contamination costs less than 50 euros in France. You can measure traces of hexane in everyday food with the right analytical method. The potential for legal action is high, as the story of hexane, a toxic substance with no safe dose, resembles that of asbestos in talc, which is costing manufacturers billions of dollars because of a natural impurity. Except that hexane isn't natural. Its use is intentional, and we can measure our level of contamination. And the Codex Alimentarius, the international food frameworks, makes it clear for any processing aid such as hexane. The safety of a substance used as processing aid should be demonstrated by the supplier or the user of the substance. Any lawyer watching will be seeing big potential for damages. And this judicialization will increase the visibility of the problem and push the most virtuous manufacturers to abandon hexane. Finally, the third piece of good news is that things are starting to move in the direction of NGOs and the authorities. In 2011, the US-based Cornucopia Association began denouncing hexane extraction and hexane presence in infant milk and veggie burgers. In 2024, the German Federal Institute for Occupational Safety and Health recommended placing hexane on the list of substances of very high concern, Europe's blacklist of chemicals. And still on 2024, EFSA's European Food Safety Authority published a vitriolic report acknowledging that public safety is currently not well protected and that hexane authorization should be re-examined. So while we wait for a label or for a ban, how can we avoid hexane-contaminated products? Choose organic if you can. Avoid non-organic animal products, especially butter, eggs, and meat. Avoid natural flavors and nutraceuticals. Preferred virgin and pressed oil over refined oils. When you go to the supermarket, teach your family and friends about hexane. To protect our brain, our nerve, our fertility, share this presentation. Tell about it around you. Mobilize the lawyers. Together, we can eliminate hexane from our plates and from our lives. Please, take care of yourself. Thank you.